How do you live an authentic life? Or rather, how do you live a life where you feel energized, where you feel fulfilled, where you feel like you're really walking on the path that feels most right for you in your life? This is what we're going to talk about in this video, and if this interests you, stay until the end where I talk about how you can best implement those ideas in your life. And hey, if this is the first time that we meet, I'm Jonas, and on this channel we talk about authenticity and personal growth. We provide tools and ideas that help you gain clarity, freedom, and fulfillment in your life. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing. So really, what does it mean to live an authentic life? This question has really been with me for a long time in my life. It's really been core to my life to understand what does it mean to be me, what does it mean to live my life, and how can I be fulfilled, and what can I do to feel like I'm really walking on my path, to feel energized, to feel, like energized and fulfilled from the inside, and what are the things that are driving me away from that? So one of the key things that I've learned is that it's very important to understand what are the impulses that I feel when I go about my day, when I go about my life. What is coming up inside of me? An impulse could be like wanting to say this or that in a conversation, maybe wanting to say this joke, or maybe it could be to talk to this friend that you haven't talked in a long time, or it could be to start this kind of project. It could even be a bigger thing to like go live abroad, whatever it might be. It could also be a small thing like I have the impulse to go eat a salad or go eat a pizza, or say this or do that kind of action. Any kind of thing that you have this impulse, like I want to do this, I want to do that, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. That's an impulse. That's something emerging inside of you, wanting to like bring itself in a form. It could also be an idea, like do this or do that, or create this or create that. And so in terms of like living an authentic life, these impulses can come from two different kind of sources. One is really your core being, like your inner being, your own truth that is emerging, that kind of like coming up from inside of you, like wanting to manifest itself in some kind of action or something that you do or that you don't do. And so the second source could be some kind of fear or anxiety or some kind of defense mechanism or some kind of trauma that wants to say you should do this or you shouldn't do that, or want to do this, I want to do that. And it's important to understand how these different sources are going to affect the way that you're going to feel when you act in accordance with these impulses, and to really understand what feels best to you. So when an impulse is coming from the core of your being and it feels just some truth of you kind of coming out, then usually when you follow up on this impulse, it feels like you get energized, you feel more alive, you feel more awake, you feel more like, yes, I'm doing what feels right to me. But also be aware when that impulse comes up, there could also be some fear coming up a little later, like I have this impulse, I want to say this joke in the conversation, but I'm not sure how people are going to react, so I'm a little bit afraid. But usually when you follow up on these true like core impulses, you feel more energized, you feel more alive. However, the other source of impulses, when you act up an impulse that is coming up from these traumas or like a defense mechanism, wanting to protect yourself from getting hurt and all these kind of things, what happens when you follow up on these impulses, usually it's more of like a feeling of like contraction. It's more of like a feeling of like you kind of like have to do this because you can't do otherwise, or it just is more safe to do that. But it might be tricky to understand where is this impulse really coming from. But the general nature is really that if it's coming from the core, it energizes you. And if it's coming from some kind of fear or trauma or defense mechanism, then it's taking away some of your energy. And that's really the compass that you have to orient yourself with, to really see, is this giving me energy when I follow up on this impulse, or is it taking energy? And also getting more aware of how these impulses show up in your life is going to make you more able to choose the right impulses for you. For example, when you have a certain impulse, what is the initial feeling that's coming up? Is it kind of like an excitement? Is it an excitement for life, an excitement for doing something, or maybe it's also you want to not do something but it excites you? Or is it more of like this thick feeling? Because usually the impulse is coming from these traumas or defense mechanisms. It feels more dense. It feels more like you're like walking in this like mud, and it's kind of like this thick emotional kind of feeling around it. And it's not so like energizing and light. But it can be very easily confused. The two can be very easily confused, and you have to learn to be to listen very closely to how does this impulse really feel, and then also how does it show in my life, like in what kind of situations does it show, and what kind of quality of this does this impulse have with it. So for me, really living an authentic life is really to inquire into those impulses and really understand where are these coming from, and how can I learn to actually follow up on these impulses that come up in the moment, that feel like they're really my core impulses coming from my own truth, and how can I avoid actually doing the things that are coming up just to protect me, like coming from some kind of trauma, but they're not really on my path in life. That's really the inquiry process that you have to go on if you want to live this authentic life where you feel energized and fulfilled. One way I like to kind of illustrate this idea of these two different sources of impulses is, imagine you are like in a windmill, like you have all this wind coming from behind you, like pushing you forward, and you feel like you're really walking on that. Like the more you walk in this path, the more you get like, like have this energy pushing you forward. And these are the true, like these core impulses. But if you go away from that wind canal, then on the to the other sides, you're going to have no push from behind. Maybe there's even wind coming from the other direction pushing you back, but you don't feel like you have this push forward where you just feel like you get energized, you get this velocity going. And so really understand what are these impulses and how can I actually jump onto that path where it energizes me. And what I usually invite my coaching clients to do if I want to be more authentic and walk on that path that is authentic to them is to do a so-called core impulses journaling or truth impulses journaling. And that is to journal when you go about your day, just note down what are these impulses that you feel when you go about your day. Like maybe to talk to this person, or to say this or that in a conversation, or to not say this, or to organize something, or maybe when you're walking around, just like walk to the left or want to walk to the right, just see what are those impulses. And also the bigger ones, like what do I want to work, where do I want to go, and just see what are the natural impulses coming up. And then write them down. Write down what is the impulse and what did I do and how did it feel? Like how did the impulse feel and how did it feel when I acted upon it or when I didn't act upon it? And just write this down, but write it down very briefly. Just what was the impulse? How did it feel in the first moment that I felt the impulse? And then how did it feel when I acted upon it or when I didn't act upon it? That's really a way to get closer to this inner feeling and understanding what is really core to me and what is not. And the more you do this, the more you realize that actually by following these core impulses, you get more energized and more fulfilled, and you also have more motivation to actually follow these ones rather than the ones that are more like this kind of contraction feeling. But you have to first be aware of that and don't trick yourself into believing one is the other or the other way around. And so if you want to go deeper on that topic, you can also sign up for a half-an-hour free coaching and consultation call where I can go more in detail with you to see how could I support you in actually living an authentic life and being more fulfilled and energized. And if you liked the video, I would invite you to hit the like button. And if you want to see more of those videos, I would appreciate you supporting my channel by subscribing to my channel and turning on the notifications by pressing on the notifications bell. And here are some other videos that you could watch if you want to go deeper on these topics. This one is about how you can live your life on your own terms. And this one is about what is embodied authenticity, so you can go deeper on understanding that. So have a great day, and until the next one.